This talk was given by Roshi Rafe Martin, guiding teacher of the Endless Path Zendo, a lay Buddhist community in Rochester, New York. Join our practice, in person or online, at endlesspathzendo.org.
So today is Sunday, June 16th, 2024, and today is the fourth and final day of our four-day session here at Endless Path Zendo. This morning we'll pick up where we left off in this extraordinary collection of on the life and teachings of Tangen Harada Roshi, who died maybe 7-8 years ago. Of course, he was a very important teacher in relation to our own lineage on the Kapleau-Roshi side. He was a very important figure in helping Philip Kapleau when he was struggling with his practice in Japan, when he was the monk Tangen, before he was Tangen Roshi. He is Harada Roshi's adopted son, and many people Rose and I personally know, went and practiced with him. A most inspiring teacher with a very unusual background in terms of how he survived World War II, being a kamikaze pilot. The war ended just as he was getting in the cockpit to fly his first and final flight, and he chose to dedicate himself to the welfare of all humanity after that, plus his mother's death and giving birth to him, and so on. So we're in the section on Zazen, and we're in mind. So we've completed his autobiography, and we're in his teachings. Various ways of practice are given to us. There is a practice just right for you. Thank you. Sorry. That practice will reveal to you this one-way path. There is no question of comparing and saying, this is a good practice, but that one is not so good. It's just like the Olympics. You have the 100-meter race, the 1,000-meter race, and the marathon. He actually did, I think, every morning get into a tracksuit and go out for a run. And he had all his students do that with him. So he wasn't just lip servicing here, he did that every morning. It is only depending on the way you're able to practice, one practice will be better for you than another. It is only if you are not giving yourself completely to the practice that you will become dissatisfied with it. There is counting the breath, following the breath, shikantaza, mu, the sound of one hand clapping, your original face, or many other koans. The teaching is the same, and each practice reveals one and the same thing. In other words, there's not a hierarchy of practice. Counting the breath can be as full and complete a practice as koan practice. There's no difference fundamentally. And it's said that Shakyamuni, sitting under the Bodhi tree, was experiencing his breath when everything fell away and the morning star stepped in. And he realized complete selfless intimacy with the entire universe. Counting the breath is the perfect practice at the beginning. Shakyamuni Buddha himself taught this practice. We have example after example of it in the sutras, starting with a few deep abdominal breaths. Your mind's eye settles in your lower belly, as we spoke about that yesterday. Okay? Or it can be the palm of your left hand, or just let your breath settle. It doesn't have to be a self-conscious thing at all. Counting on the exhale, just count. There is no separation, just doing, just being the breath, being the count. 2, just. For the full extension of that exhalation, you are that 2. Count to 10 and naturally start from 1 again. Earnestly count this one breath. Do not let yourself be bothered by thoughts and feelings. If you fall off the count, you pull yourself together and go back to counting your breath. Many thoughts arise in the brain. Just let them be. And the same would go for koan practice. Just focus on the koan point and let all the thoughts be. The brain is actively going all the time, which is neither good nor bad. Whatever arises, no matter how inviting it appears, neither entertain it nor reject it. This is the key. Be strong on this point. Be firm and determined. Be resolved. The host is not the discriminating consciousness. The host is true self, all of heaven and earth, same root. All the myriad things are one body, the true nature. Openly, obediently be pure. Grasp nothing. Hold nothing. Rest nowhere. Let go of everything. You are the embodiment of truth, just as you are. Stay in your Tangen. Again, if that works for you, fine. Otherwise, don't make it a self-conscious thing. Just be this breath or this koan through and through. Do this one doing. What is one doing? You can only answer this for yourself by doing it. Tangen Roshi used to say, you learn Zazen by doing Zazen, not by sitting and thinking about it, by doing. Simply count this breath. This breath. Simply work on this koan. Let all thoughts about it go. Not force them away. Stay with the koan. One wholehearted breath is a step taken. This is the law of karmic inevitability. The step that you take is never lost. Just carry on. This is so interesting. There's a quote from the great writer and aviator Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, which has always moved me tremendously. In his book, I think it's Wind, Sand, and Mail. He was what is it?
Wind, Sand, and Stars.
Yes, Wind, Sand, and Stars. He was one of the early mail pilots through the Andes, terribly dangerous. The Andes weren't mapped. The little planes couldn't get over them. They had to find passes through. The weather, the winds, the snow, the ice were horrific. And one day, one of his friends went down, and he was not found. Eventually, this guy walked out, his feet completely frostbitten. He had to climb down from the Andes in snowfields and glaciers. He was in terrible shape when Saint-Exupéry met up with him in the hospital. He was lying in the hospital bed. And he asked him, how did he do it? And he said, what saves a man, a person, make it gender neutral, but he was speaking about himself. He said, what saves a man is to take a step and then to take another step. It is always the same step, but you have to take it. That was it. What saves a man is to take a step and then another step. It is always the same step, but you have to take it. Thinking about taking the step is not taking the step. You have to do it. And it's the same doing every time. You let it go and focus on this breath, this count, this koan. And you do it again and again. And you let everything go. And you give yourself fully to this breath, this step. The step that you take is never lost. Just carry on. Give it your all, then give it some more, clearly, decisively. Settled in this one breath, nothing agitates you. Counting the breath is the perfect practice of truth. You need not entertain any ideas of gain, of getting something. That goes for koan practice as well. Everything that you need is right here. Everything you need to know, you know already. If you practice counting the breath, you will become very calm in this practice, unflustered by anything that arises. You are giving your life over to this, practicing in such a way that there is no tomorrow. Very important point towards the end of sesshin. There is no end of sesshin. Life continues endlessly. This is our practice right now. We continue with this practice right through the end of sesshin, and then we pick it up again and continue on. It's our life. Thinking that you still have time is a loss of valuable time. Depending on having tomorrow to deepen your practice is not giving over your life to practice. There is only today, only this one period of Zazen. Actually, there is only this one breath. There is only this one doing, this one single point. This is all there is. I think the great Tibetan teacher, 12th century poet, teacher, beloved, extraordinary figure, Milarepa, at one point in one of his songs or in a dialogue with him said, "If you think that tomorrow is the time to practice, you will find that your life has slipped away." Many people think, "Oh, I'll get to it tomorrow, I'll practice, that's a good idea." There's this breath right now. No matter where you are, you can always go, for a minute and be fully present, or let everything go. Right now, people put it off, and find their life has slipped away. Their real life, a bit of has or has not, says Wu Men, and body is lost, life is lost. Whether it is counting the breath, following the breath, mu or shikantaza or any other koan, burn within that practice, and your practice will take care of itself. Practice nurtures practice, or as Aitken Roshi said, doing Zazen teaches Zazen. First and foremost, believe with all your life that you are immersed in the Buddha way here and now. We walk this one path. Purely throwing all of your might into it, maintain this one straight path, this one practice that you've been given to do. If you practice in this way, you won't have the possibility of regret later. When your practice is wholehearted like this, everything comes together to support you. There is no more separation. There is no room for any reasoning or conceptualizing or trying to figure it out. So much time is wasted trying to figure it out. Just give yourself to the practice and do it, breath by breath. When you practice, there is no room for any reasoning or conceptualizing or trying to figure it out. If you throw everything into your practice and everything gives itself to you to make one whole, pure doing, but if you don't really do it wholeheartedly, then you won't be able to appreciate the intimacy of Buddha heart. Even though we are always and equally receiving and living out this treasure, we are eating a feast without even tasting it. That is a real waste. It is so difficult to attain a human birth. And as human beings, does everyone have this opportunity to hear the teachings of Buddha Dharma in this life? Certainly not. It said, to be born as a human being, the traditional parable is that there is a blind turtle swimming in an endless sea. There's no limit, like the universe. It goes on and on. It contains all things. This ocean is endless, has no shore. And and there's a board floating on this endless sea with one hole in it. And once every 100 years, the turtle swims up to the surface of that sea. What are the odds that that turtle will put its head through the hole in that board that's floating randomly on that vast ocean? And the parable told by the Buddha goes on to say, those are the odds you've already beaten in being born in this life as a human being. The odds of hearing the Dharma once you've attained human birth are even longer. That's how rare and precious the opportunity we presently have and take so for granted. Oh yeah, there's billions of human beings. It may look like that, but when you think of the size of the universe, if the only human beings are on this planet, it's hardly anybody at all. How rare to be born a human being. Don't waste the opportunity. Whatever the circumstance of your life, you can practice within it sincerely. As Tangen Roshi said in his earlier, at the conclusion of his autobiography, you can't do what I did. I was driven to it for a variety of karmic causes and conditions. But you can do what you can do, and the key to doing that is sincerity, just complete sincerity. So, to go on. The Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, which is what we recite when we open Teisho, is rarely encountered, even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. This is not just a nice add-on to remind us to pay attention. This is true. It's rarely encountered, and it's incomparably profound and minutely subtle. Rarely encountered even in hundreds of millions of kalpas. And a kalpa is traditionally said it's a geologic span of time. We know it as we know more of the history of the earth scientifically and history of the universe scientifically. But it was always in Buddhist thought, and the kalpa is described as the length of time it takes if a deva, a god, a being from a higher realm, flew down to earth and with the sleeve of their silken robe, they came down once every 100 years, brushed the top of Mount Everest with the sleeve of their robe once every 100 years. A kalpa is the length of time it would take for Mount Everest to be worn down to ground level. Only science now has given us a sense of this kind of geologic, galactic span of time. But Buddhism had that understanding right from the start. It's rarely heard, encountered in its marvelous profundity and subtlety in hundreds of millions of kalpas. And here we are, taking it so for granted, taking this human life with all its opportunities for wisdom, for maturing, for compassion, for insight, so for granted. He's encouraging us to sincerely put ourselves into this count, this breath. It seems so unphilosophic, into this koan point. And yet there it is. Real life is right there. But a bit of has and has not, says Wu Man, and life is lost. Body is lost, life is lost. Happily, we are blessed with this human body. Happily, we are able to meet with Buddha Dharma. True nature meets with itself. Self-awareness is possible. We have this capacity, and we are in a position to attain liberation. At the same time, we have an infinite capacity to use our wits to be clever and judgmental, to look away from the reality of our own being. Lay down your self-cherishing. Throw yourself into the house of Buddha. Then everything is done by Buddha. Release the hold of the small self, the me, myself, and I, isolated and alone, and know how vast you are. As Bodhidharma said, vast emptiness, and nothing to be called holy. Just practice and know how vast and wonderful the way is. Vow, chapter 11. There is a teaching that says, if your original aspiration is incorrect, all the myriad practices will be in vain. If your aim is incorrect, whatever you do will be of no use. So the mind with which we set out to practice Zen is all important. Practice comes to life in your vow. So please reflect and ask yourself, what is it that I vow? What do I pray for? You are a baby, then a teenager, then soon a young adult, day by day, month by month, year by year, your life marches on. No one wants their life to pass by swiftly, but how swiftly this life does pass. There is no respite, no stopping the flow of moments, days, years. Before you know it, you are 20 years old, 30, 40. Can it be 50 already? 60. Well, maybe that's enough. 70. There is no slowing it down. I'm 78 now. One of my closest friends just died a month or so ago. He was 10 years older. He was 88. We did so many things together, and now he's gone. It can't be stopped. In olden days, it was rare to live to be 70 years old, and in so many countries in the world, this is still true. It is said that Japan has the longest life expectancy in the world now, but the mere numbers of days and years don't tell us much. The question is, what do you do with these fleeting days? What do you seek? What is it that you truly desire? What is your prayer, your vow in life? You must look into yourself to answer this question. What am I working toward? What do I live for? What have I done with my life? Some people would probably honestly answer that they have wanted many different things, and up until now they have followed their desires. Confronted with these questions, you may experience some sense of regret if your starting aim is not correct. But if your aim is correct, each endeavor is the real endeavor. Each endeavor is sincere, true, with no regrets. Truth is brought to life in your vow. Recently, when I was going through my room, I came upon a piece of paper, something I wrote long ago. It's dated October 15th, 1947. I wrote it at the time of my first opportunity to meet with Buddha Dharma. The war had ended on August 15th, 1945, and after I came back to Japan, I went to Sozen, Nakasawa Roshi's temple, for my first sesshin. Right after that first sesshin, just before I went to meet my teacher, Tangen Roshi, for the first time at Hoshinji, this is what I wrote. The one-way path of repaying my gratitude for all things received, the purpose of human life. That is, the one-way path of repaying my gratitude for all things received. This was his purpose for his human life. He goes on, I will perfect my character, that is to say, become a living Buddha. I will arouse the Bodhi mind and devote myself to Zazen, so that I can awaken to the truth of the great universe as soon as possible. I won't let anything distract me from realizing absolute self. Each day, I will accumulate a merit, both hidden unnoticed and not hidden, increasing my store of blessings and capabilities so that I can carry on the great work. And then I wrote a poem. With yearning, I vow to follow the jeweled vision of all the gods of heaven and earth. On a second page I wrote, I vow with all my heart, if there is good and evil, to always pursue good with my true heart. To give me the means to do this, I will follow a true teacher, keep true friends, and read true texts. To stay on the straight path without weakening, I will use the whip to encourage myself. By whip, he means the whip of the vows themselves. Hakuin says to whip up the wheel of the four great vows, that is our great vows for all, to really live by them. Tangen goes on, even if I'm coughing up my own blood, I promise with all my heart to sincerely lay down my life for this. Now remember, again, his extraordinary circumstances produced a tremendous motivation in him. And he says right out, you can't do what I did the way I did it, but you can do it the way you can do it. And the key to that is simply to be completely sincere with yourself about what you want and what you can accomplish, what you can give yourself to in this life, in the circumstances of who you are and what your life situation is. Do it with absolute sincerity. I must have written this, he says, with all my heart. On the next line, I wrote and underlined with small dots, burning zealously like the sun, bright and broad-minded like the vast skies, settled and unmoving like the mountains, growing pure like flowing water, being like great nature. This is dated and signed with my lay name. That was some 55 years ago, and it seems I didn't know a thing about Buddha Dharma. What I wrote then now seems somehow cute and innocent. It was where I was at that moment, but it was not without meaning, because everything depends upon our vow, our sincere commitment to follow the Dharma. When we arouse the thought of realization, the determination to attain realization, everything that we do becomes a manifestation of realization. Each step, this one step, what saves a person is to take a step. It is always the same step, but you must take it. Everything depends upon your vow. How alive, how vital is your aim. The aim with which you vow to live. How alive, how vital is your aim? The aim with which you vow to live your life. If you're living your life with the vow to attain realization, and he means full realization, not just a glimpse, not just as Nelson Foster used to say, our paltry little Kensho. Full realization. All is lively. Your vow is clear. Your purpose is clear. Of course, this vow has to include all beings. Your promise is not a stingy one. There is no such thing as realization for one's personal benefit. As long as you are considering your own personal well-being first and foremost, how small, how lonely, how weak and ineffectual you are. But once you've made the commitment to attain realization, which necessarily includes all beings, your foundation is no longer self-centered. You no longer grasp this I, me, mine as your reason for being. Your vow is together with all beings. Here, right from the start, we find the conclusion of our journey, which is oneness with all beings. Without the I, there is no all beings. Without all beings, no I. There is no division, no separation, no duality in truth. May all beings attain liberation. May all beings awaken to the reality of their inherent nature, of their inherent perfection. This is your vow. and your vow is ultimately realized. All beings, sentient or not, simultaneously attain the way, grasses, trees, and the great earth. Everything becomes Buddha, pure truth. Truth is not touched by discriminating consciousness. Truth is absolute, beyond conditions. It is original nature, perfect virtue. That which you long to meet is right here and now, and you can verify it for yourself. That which you long to meet is right here and now. You can verify it for yourself. When the great Zhao Chu was asked, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West? He answered, the oak tree in the front garden. The oak tree in the front garden. You can verify this for yourself right here and now. Please see for yourself, come to life in this profound rebirth. What else could there be for you to desire? What else could you vow to do? Let go of any aim that diverges from truth. Clearly, firmly, make up your mind to practice the teaching of truth and follow through with your practice. That's how you follow through. That's how you bring your vow to life, by practicing it. Each step is one with truth, one with life. Just be loyal to this one breath, this one step. With each breath, truth is realized, truth is practiced. Continuing, there is just to continue. The one who simply continues is the master among masters. That's a quote. Let's see who said that. The one who continues is the master of masters. That is last line from the Hokyo Zanmai, a teaching poem by Dongshan Liangje, 807 to 869, his dates. The one who simply continues is the master among masters. Impermanence. There's a great quote from one of our contemporary lay Zen elders, Gary Snyder, a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet, environmentalist, very committed Zen student, now 94 or so, still quite sharp, still a terrific writer and personality. Was asked about, what should we do? How do we deal with impermanence? And he answered, enjoy it while you can. Impermanence in a nutshell, as I said, very sharp fellow. So, impermanence, and Tangen says, quotes a little poem. This is a poem from Shinran, the founder of Jodo Shinshu, which supposedly he wrote at the age of 9. And the poem is this: the heart believes in tomorrow's cherry blossoms. The storm comes at night and blows them away. The heart believes in tomorrow's cherry blossoms. The storm comes at night and blows them away. This is a poem composed by Shinran Shonin, dates 1173 to 1263, the founder of Jodo Shinshu at age 9. When he was a young boy, both his parents died. Feeling urgency. Urgency is anxiety. How else do you move forward without something motivating you? All the things that bug us, be grateful for them. They're our motivators. They're moving us to mature, to grow up, to find out what's true. They're not obstacles. They're what push us forward. They're what push us forward. He feeling urgency to understand the great matter of life and death at 9, Shinran went to Shoro-in in Kyoto. He arrived at the temple somewhat late, perhaps in the evening, and asked the head priest Jian to ordain him as a monk. When Jian told him that he would ordain him the next day, he had come in the evening, and Jian said, "I'll ordain you tomorrow, kid." Shinran replied, "The heart believes in tomorrow's cherry blossoms. The storm comes at night and blows them away." Hearing his urgency, Jian fulfilled his request and ordained him that same night. It is necessary for a practitioner to have a persistent sense of impermanence, not just intellectually, but a felt sense of it. One of the interesting things of life is that as you get older, if you haven't had a shift from an intellectual awareness of impermanence to a gut level realization of impermanence, believe me, it will come. You will become a very advanced practitioner as you age, because impermanence will no longer be a nice idea you read in a Buddhist book. It will no longer be fascinating. It will be a fire in your gut, and you will know that with every tick of the clock, your life is passing and will come to an end. It is necessary for a practitioner to have a persistent sense of impermanence, not just intellectually, but a felt sense of it. We cannot be carefree. There is no time to waste. Very often we spend our time in a leisurely way as if we're going to live forever, thinking that there won't be anything to worry about tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow is when we'll worry about it. Even if we don't consciously think that way, in some place deeper than conscious thought, we carry this conviction. Rarely do people live with the mindset of there is no tomorrow. Roshi Kapleau used to quote, "The devil laughs at those who think of next year. The devil laughs at those who think of I'll do that next year." Most people experience, get this, most people experience a lot of suffering in their lives. But there are people in this world able to live somewhat calm, trouble-free, happy lives. Even for such people, will there always be serenity? Will there always be this calm happiness? Certainly not. Worry, anxiety, and trouble take so many forms and wear so many faces. Suffering can leap out at you in so many ways. One woman I know had a life that had been so smooth and joyful, a perfect example of the heavenly realm. She was the mother of 3 sons, each of whom had always been kind, considerate, and bright, and she was close to them. Each was accomplished in his field. They were all doctors or university professors. And while she had no daughters, she was blessed with 3 daughters-in-law she got along well with, all warm, kind, and considerate people. These various families seemed to be content with their lives. This woman was very healthy and living a life that others might envy. She herself could see that she'd been so blessed. She was a person many others would approach when they had problems. But one day, she told me in tears that suddenly, without any explanation or any farewell note, her oldest son had left his house and gone missing, just disappeared. She experienced anguish so intense that it didn't allow her to sleep, and her time awake was pure suffering. No matter how she thought about it or how she looked at it, she couldn't figure out what was going on. I couldn't help but feel deep, deep sympathy. From heaven, she fell straight to the bottomless suffering of hell. So even though people are blessed and joyous, it doesn't mean that they necessarily have true peace of mind. Not deeply, not unconditionally. In other words, their current peace of mind depends on causes and conditions. But if those causes and conditions should change, their peace of mind will vanish. We're so fragile. We're always poised on the edge of a knife. Always. The heart believes in tomorrow's cherry blossoms. The storm comes at night and blows them away. By the front gate at this temple, there are many gravestones piled high in the shape of a mountain. People usually call them the graves of people who have no relations. Of course, that expression is erroneous because not a single person and no thing without relations. We are so incredibly related in every way. This stupa was erected from the many graves of people whose family lines had all died out a long time ago. It is called the stupa of all spirits, or more simply, Great Buddha. On the path to the graveyard, there is a rather large stone, just my height. On its side is a written request asking everyone who comes to see their ancestors' graves to bow first to the stupa of all spirits. On the front of this stone, these words are carved: "We were once just as you are now." We were once just as you are now. Those upon whose graves you now gaze were in the past just exactly like you, healthy, full of happiness, enjoying their lives. A young, joyful-looking couple arriving to pay tribute to their ancestors can read those words. Then there is a second line that reads, "You will become just as we are now." You will become just as we are now. Impermanence is swift. This is the reality. No matter how blessed you are now, how easygoing, how worry-free and happy, you cannot keep this situation. It will be taken away from you. Impermanence is swift. You have to resolve the problem of life and death for yourself, and no one can do it for you. No one can do it for you. No teacher can give it to you. Everything is impermanent. Change is constant. It waits for no one. You don't even have the time to sit around and lament impermanence, to think of it as a concept, to dwell on it. There is no time to dwell on anything. There is a constant sermon of change. Truth is being revealed completely. It is always laid out before us undisguised, right here and now. Always and ultimately life is fresh and new. Always and ultimately this true life is revealed. Life is not a solid fixed thing. There is no self in it. This fact, this reality has to be pounded in until you know it in your guts, until it is a persistent sense. No matter how carefully you try to hold on to something, no matter how carefully you try to make this life last, you are going to lose it. The heart believes in tomorrow's cherry blossoms. The storm comes at night and blows them away. The only thing then for you to do is to seek that which cannot be taken away, that which cannot be lost. The only thing for you to do is to see clearly that which you can utterly and absolutely rely on, no matter how the winds blow. What I am telling you right now is meet with it. Meet with it. In fact, you are now living it. This most precious thing is right here under your feet. When you meet with it, you know that there is no dying. That which cannot be lost or destroyed is your original life. You cannot rely on somebody else to live it for you. You have to walk it with your own steps. Morning turns into noon, noon into evening, evening into night. There is continual birth and death. This truth cannot be taken away. It goes nowhere. Everything is just all right. Everything is just Buddha nature, Buddha life. Buddha simply means awakened one. the one awakened to truth. When you awaken to truth, even should Shakyamuni Buddha appear to take this away from you, it cannot be taken away, because you are one and the same as Shakyamuni Buddha. It's your reality, the reality of every single one of you. If you don't awaken to this, then you will continue through a never-ending cycle of lifetimes, but you're not really living. You must abandon the heart that believes in the cherry blossoms of tomorrow, the heart that takes it for granted that you will have tomorrow to practice and attain liberation. We will stop here. The next chapter, chapter 13, begins with great doubt, or is titled Great Faith, Great Doubt, Great Determination. So this was the final Teisho of our 4-day June 24, 2024 session, and it was really quite an honor to share with you Tangen Roshi's book, Throw Yourself into the House of Buddha. It's really is such a deeply felt book, and his personality, his teachings are so clear. What a really profound realization he embodied and shared with us all. So I will stop the recording and turn the computer around so we do our great vows for all in front of the Buddha together.